We're back with this Fox Business alert. Breaking tonight, the U.S. finally retaliating against Iran-backed forces that killed those 3 American soldiers last weekend.
85 targets hit in Iraq and Syria as the commander-in-chief vows more will come, saying, quote, "Our response began today. It will continue at time and places of our choosing. The United States does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this. If you harm an American, we will respond." Dagen, I look at this as strong talk, but I would say Joe Biden is a soy boy. If he doesn't want to attack militarily the Iranians, he can attack their oil supply like you and I have talked about numerous times in this show. He will not attack Iranian oil because he wants to attack American oil under the auspices of climate change, and it's shameful.
John Kirby has been having a bit of a gaggle with the press, and adding to what you just said, he noted that on the timing of the strikes, they had no connection whatsoever with the timing of the dignified transfer today, because dignified transfer, and then right after that, these strikes, that the plans were in place. It's just the timing of the leadership. They have to decide when to execute on the plans that are in place. Oh, and no communication between the U.S. and Iran. But they could stop the flow of oil simply with sanctions on the ghost tanker fleet. It wouldn't even take strikes, but they won't do that.
For more on this, let's bring in Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Congressman, good to see you. This is breaking news tonight. Joe Biden finally responding. I want to get your take. How do you respond?
Yeah, well, the reason that we're in this predicament that we are is because of the fecklessness of this administration. I mean, and you guys are right on the money. The maximum pressure campaign that included sanctions on the oil industry in Iran, which gave them over $80 billion, stopping $150 billion getting back to Iran, another $6 billion just a month before the October 7th attack by Hamas. We know that Iran is funding the terrorists, and yet we keep giving money to Iran. We facilitate that. And what we need to do, in my opinion, is, besides some of these other things that you've talked about, is we have to open up our own energy industry, and we have to do the maximum pressure sanctions. If we do those again, you have the ability to actually bring Iran back to the table, not to the table, but back where they were, to a position where they cannot fund the terrorist attacks in the Mideast and destabilize it. The other thing is, this administration is literally still negotiating with Iran on a nuclear deal. How can that be? You just look at it and you say, this administration can't get out of its own way, and that is causing dangerous hotspots around the world, such as we see in the Middle East today.
Congressman, it doesn't make any sense. Do they want Iran to rise up in power and to be the hegemon in the Middle East? But it doesn't make any sense that they, for 3 years, would enrich the largest state sponsor of terror. And even after the October 7th attacks on a terror attack by Hamas, funded by Iran, that they said in November they would do everything to bring down oil exports out of Iran, and they did no such thing.
No, that's exactly right, Dagen. And so think of it this way, too. This administration, you actually had staffers walk out because President Biden pledged to support Israel, even though he's basically undermined a lot of that, right? This is the river to the sea mentality of people who are working in this administration. So I just am beside myself, because you think of it, you look at it, you say, how can you continue to allow destabilization from that Iranian regime when we had it under control? But it's consistent with every other policy of this administration, whether it's the domestic or foreign policy, but it's particularly acute and visible in the foreign policy when you see everything from Afghanistan to the China-Taiwan relationship, and now you see this utter failure to keep Iran in check, and you're allowing them to run free. And who's at stake? No, basically the entire region.
Andy, I want to move back home here in the States. Americans, they're speaking out in force as migrants take over their cities.
These people came from the airport here, probably on boats, probably on buses, and probably all for free. Now they're getting stipends. They're getting what else? I need money for me and my kids, and I was born here.
They converted this hotel next to my business as a migrant shelter. All my regular customers, they hesitate to come to my business right now because these people are hanging around in my parking lot, and they have like kids who are running around in the parking lot.
Everybody says that the migrants, they are human beings and they need to be treated as human beings, but my residents are human beings too. You know, they have paid taxes, and if the interests of the migrants conflict with the interest of my residents, the interest of my residents are going to predominate.
You know, Congressman, you're living this every day in Arizona. You've seen Republicans, independents, and Democrats move away from Joe Biden politically because of the immigration issue. When does it get so bad for him that he looks forward to November and says, if I don't change course, I very well may lose this election on immigration alone? Do you think he changes policy because the politics of this is so bad for him?
Well, Sean, I got to tell you, I think that is the window dressing program you're seeing being offered up in the Senate today.
Yeah.
That's not going to actually fix the problem. It's going to exacerbate the problem. And so, but he's going to be able to go out and argue, hey, we see what we've done, and let's see if my program can work. And he's going to eat up time. He's trying to eat up time because every day that goes on, and every day that you have 8,000 to 12,000 people come into the country and are apprehended, and then another 5,000 or so that are not apprehended, they just get away, then what happens is he's going to hide it. That's what he's doing. He's deflecting. And so he's going to pay the price, though, I think, because it is the number one issue. Number one is border. Number 1A is the economy. And they're actually intertwined. But I'm telling you, I've been down recently, whether in Texas or in Arizona, and it is as bad. In fact, it's worse than I've ever seen it in some of these places.
Congressman, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Congressman Andy Biggs.